I was submerged in this putrid pond. It had been over 10 years, my bones long since decayed, almost gone. I never expected to meet a young princess, so desperate she threw herself into these waters. She clutched my thigh bone, weeping mournfully. Immortal, I vow to offer my body to you. Please, reclaim justice for me. A fortune teller once predicted a great calamity for me at the age of 32. Who would have thought I'd lose my life at 22? Even more unexpected, that great calamity would be a young girl jumping into the river and breaking my thigh bone. She kept her eyes shut tight, hands clasped, determined to seek death. I wouldn't let her have her way. I pulled her by the leg, dragging her ashore, making her choke on a large gulp of water. I died a gruesome death. The servant who buried me got scared after digging only half a pit and threw my corpse into this pond. Nan Gong Wen Tian, that scoundrel who deserved to be sliced into 1,000 pieces, he cut out my tongue, mutilated my face, once said to be worth 1,000 gold, and still wasn't satisfied. He even used my hair to cover my face and filled my mouth with chaff, just to prevent me from accusing him of his evil deeds before King Yama himself. As soon as the young girl opened her eyes, she saw me disheveled, staring at her, my severed tongue lying in her hand. Her eyes widened and she coughed violently. I pulled back my hair, my amber eyes, once so bright, were now empty, oozing a murky liquid. I smugly circled her twice, lightly biting her still childlike cheek. This mountain is mine, these trees are mine. If you wish to pass, leave money for your life. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She removed all the hairpins from her head, clasped her hands respectfully, and said, "Immortal, I beg you to bless me." I burst out laughing. 10 years as a vengeful ghost, and this was the first time someone called me an immortal. Mortals crave worldly possessions, but what do gods and ghosts need with all this gold and silver? I'd rather pick up a piece of joss paper money from the ground than continue to scare her. This isn't enough. What I truly desire is the pure and sweet soul of a young girl. She lowered her eyes in disappointment, backing away fearfully, stammering a refusal. "Great immortal, please don't eat me. I've heard that being eaten by a ghost turns one into a vengeful servant ghost. I still want to see my imperial father and imperial mother one more time." My corpse, which had been wrapped around her, shrunk back. I picked up my tongue and put it back in my mouth. The former emperor's affection for the young princess was known throughout the land. When she turned one, the emperor ordered all the music troops in the capital to perform in the palace, and everyone was generously rewarded. Many people managed to buy their freedom with that reward money. At that time, amidst the fluttering sleeves of dancing performers, I stole a glance. The emperor held the little princess high, letting her sit on his neck, exclaiming, "I have a princess. I have a daughter." He debated with the grand academicians for a long time, sometimes complaining that one name was too extravagant, other times finding another too melancholic. Only at the very last moment did he hesitantly decide on the name Guan Tang, just like any ordinary father, overjoyed to the point of impropriety. Yet, before the former emperor's bones had even cooled, the little princess, once treasured like a precious gem, was forced to jump into the river. I frowned in displeasure. I was sold off by my alcoholic father. Truly, comparing people only leads to death by anger. Guan Tang heard me mutter a few words about my tragic past. Her clear, deer-like eyes immediately clouded over with a layer of mist. She looked up, forcing a smile. "It's all right. If I find the souls of my imperial father and mother, I will tell them to treat you well too." I paused, then burst out laughing. My empty chest suddenly thumped like the heartbeat of a living person. "Imperial father, I am well." A sharp female voice cut her off. "Wretch!" A slap landed, sharp fingernails leaving 3 scratches on Guan Tang's face. "You are a princess, it's bad enough you're so jealous, but to be out in this wilderness with disheveled hair and messy clothes, who are you trying to disgrace?" A long-faced noblewoman pointed at her head, scolding her, endlessly denouncing her for disrespecting propriety, having no shame, being unloved and ignored by all. Her maid also rolled her eyes, chiming in, "Our countess is the only one in the young master's heart. What if you're a princess? Do you think you're so noble? The young master wouldn't even spare you a glance. Our grand countess has already become a high consort. Do you think pretending to be pitiful will work? The grand countess only needs to whisper a word in his majesty's ear, and he'll see you're full of lies. What can you do to us? Be sensible and get out of that position. Don't stand between our young master and our countess. It's an eyesore. Useless trash, I despise you." Guan Tang covered her ears tightly, burying her face in her sleeve, tears streaming down. The two women grew more agitated as they spoke. The noblewoman picked up a golden phoenix hairpin from the ground, hiding it in her sleeve. When Guan Tang reached out to retrieve it, she was slapped again, a fierce blow. The woman's hand wore a gauntlet, leaving a long, bleeding gash on Guan Tang's neck. I sniffed the scent of blood in the air, licking the corners of my lips. This is truly boring. Guan Tang gasped in surprise. The two women suddenly froze like wooden blocks. I snapped my fingers and they both, like faulty cards, began to slap each other repeatedly. Each blow was heavier than the last, their faces swelling, tearing, blood oozing from the corners of their mouths. At first, they cursed loudly, but then their mouths were too mangled and they could only whimper weakly. I laughed maniacally, my tongue flying out again, my long hair dancing. I grabbed each of their arms, breaking their limbs. The little princess gaped in astonishment, as if watching a circus act. The countess's eyes rolled back and she passed out. I let go, and the maid limped, carrying her mistress, fleeing for dear life. I chuckled. Now this is interesting. Guan Tang crept closer to me. Thank you, sister, you are truly a good ghost. I had been called a despicable wretch since childhood. In the pleasure quarters, one had to be sharp-tongued and quarrelsome. There was no foul or dirty word I hadn't been called. Only the words, good person, had never been bestowed upon me. I never imagined that after death I would become a good ghost. I awkwardly ruffled her head with my hair. If you're no longer angry, then don't seek death anymore. A noose around your neck, one kick, and it's easy. But look, after death, you're alone and desolate, unable to do anything. How boring, so boring that old memories gradually fade. She pursed her lips. I'll be punished by ghosts if I go home. I want to stay here a little longer. She sat by the pond until the sun disappeared, even promising to come back and confide in me when she had free time. But I never expected her to return so quickly. Sister, save me? One night, rain poured down like water from a bucket. I was playing cards with old ghosts when a stumbling figure burst into the ruined temple. Her dress was torn to shreds, her throat bore bruise marks, her whole body was numb like rotten wood, her face filled with despair, tears streaming down her emaciated cheeks. I don't want to live anymore, sister. She knelt before me, banging her head 3 times with a thud, then clasped my thigh, crying out, Immortal, I offer this body to you. Please help me get revenge. I pinched her chin, blowing a soft breath. Though I had been human and ghost for many years, her fate still sent chills down my spine. Orphaned early, she had been gentle, cautious, and endured everything. But they still wouldn't let her go, robbing her of wealth, snatching her love, and now even wanting her life. Kidnapped by bandits, as she struggled to escape, she saw her trusted fiancé handing a purse of money to the bandits. She fled for her life, but there was nowhere in the world for her to find refuge. Unseen figures shouted, pushing her to her breaking point. My hair stood on end, the cries of ghosts echoed from all directions. Don't be afraid, I will get revenge for you. She shook her head. It's useless. I can't hold on. If you leave, they'll just torture me again. She lunged headfirst into a stone pillar, collapsing onto the ground, writhing. Imperial father, imperial mother, I want to go home. She curled up in my arms, tears flowing like a spring. An old ghost nearby licked his lips, approaching. Great king, you are confused. That would be seizing a body, a small game of destruction. It's better for me to absorb her soul. I kicked him, sending him flying out the door. I pressed my forehead against the little princess, slowly infiltrating her body, enveloping her 3 souls and 7 spirits. Storytellers always say good is rewarded with good, and evil with evil. But why do good people suffer short lives, while the wicked sit proudly atop, living like immortals? I wiggled my limbs, baring my sharp fangs, and chuckled. Ghosts throughout the mountains and fields cheered with excitement. Haha, what do ghosts care about karma in the next life? A tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. I want them to pay blood for blood. I transformed into a widow driven out of the city, wearing a white flower in my hair, wiping tears as I trudged along the official road. The sound of hooves echoed, and several thugs and bandits surrounded me. Little lady, aren't you lonely out here alone late at night? The leader grinned, revealing his yellowed teeth. A familiar scent wafted over, making my eyes gleam with excitement. I feigned fright and looked up. The rain had soaked my outer garment, revealing a bright red embroidered vest. I trembled and knelt, exposing my fair neck. Good sirs, spare my life. This humble concubine went to burn joss paper for her husband and missed the city gate at night. As long as you good sirs spare my life, I'll do anything. The man laughed disgustingly, pinching my buttocks. You all go find the others first. Noble ladies and princesses have good food and fine clothes. I don't believe she escaped my grasp. As for this lonely widow, I must help her find a little comfort. I licked my teeth, backing away in alarm. He lunged, tossing me onto the horse's back, his mouth full of vulgar taunts. This wretch, wait for you all to come back and play. The bandits took me to their lair, a place stacked with food and weapons. Looking at the patterns on the sword sheaths, they seemed to be uniformly manufactured by the government. Besides the thugs, there were over a dozen women in tattered clothes, of all ages, their faces lifeless. The bandit leader was embracing a woman, drinking wine. He called himself a majestic great general. He held the power of life and death on this mountain, completely drunk. He boasted of his past exploits, how he once possessed the widow of a general. When she was tied up and brought to him, she was still in mourning, exquisitely beautiful. He described in detail how the widow knelt like a dog, how soft her body was, what birthmarks she had. Her eyes, once clear and bright, became utterly desolate. I cried out abruptly, successfully drawing all eyes to me. The bandit leader's eyes lit up as he circled me, examining me for a long time. So similar, so similar. I blinked at him. Is he really so majestic? The leader laughed heartily. Of course. I melted against him like boneless silk. Then this humble concubine wants to be the woman of the majestic great general. The leader cast aside his wine, letting me unhook his belt and lead him to the bed. Thrown onto the bed, he eagerly stripped off his trousers. I chuckled softly, and he looked bewildered. I stroked his head. This concubine has met you before. He eagerly tore at my clothes. Where? Why don't I remember? I revealed my true form amidst falling flakes, smiling. With my hair loose, I blew into his ear. Remember now? He shrieked in terror. I covered his mouth, whistling softly. Ghosts from within 10 miles materialized in the room. Many whom he had harmed, their spirits surrounded him, tormenting his body piece by piece. He shrieked, begging for mercy. I covered my mouth, giggling. I spare you. Did you ever spare me? The door was kicked open. People outside heard the commotion and rushed in, swords drawn. The bandit leader's eyes widened as if seeing hope. My long hair wrapped around their necks, slowly tightening, severing them. The crunching of breaking bones mingled with the screams, making me tremble with perverse delight. Alas, one person cannot eat for long. In a moment, only a gaping skeleton remained, as if in ultimate horror. The wind blew and the skeleton collapsed. I sighed, destroying his eyes. You really are like a dog. Before returning to the palace, I visited an old grave on the mountain. Next to the crumbling grave stood a thatched hut. Inside the hut was a blind old woman, wearing a faded official's robe, and a man's broken, rusty saber strapped to her waist. The old lady heard my footsteps and vigilantly drew a hairpin from her head. I said nothing, finished burning a stack of joss paper before the grave, then turned and walked away. Along the gloomy mountain path, faint sobs echoed. When I was alive, I was like fire and water with her. She cursed me as shameless, hiring people to throw excrement in front of my rented house. I would embrace her proudest son, kiss him loudly in front of her. Later, she lost her only child, and I became a notorious jinx. We tore at each other for years, eventually becoming nothing but mud trampled by the powerful. When I returned to the Imperial Pleasure Garden, 2 people were already standing in the courtyard. I could never forget that man's voice, even as a ghost. Lionel, don't worry, I will take everything. HMPH, I thought the Empire produced talented people in every era, but it turns out to be this same despicable beast. That year, flowers bloomed, and I too awaited his return with full expectation. Alas, alas, I couldn't stop the tears of blood from flowing. I plunged a bone towards his throat, but it fractured inch by inch, making me cough up a large mouthful of blood. I once heard the town god's temple lady say that everyone in the mortal world has a destiny. Even if one was a beggar, if they possessed the true dragon's aura, they could become an emperor. Gods and ghosts interfering in human affairs would be condemned to Avasai Hell. I don't fear Avasai Hell, but before going there, I must take him with me. Fortunately, he only possessed a counterfeit dragon's aura. A counterfeit dragon is just one step away from a true dragon. With the right timing, he could ascend to the throne. How interesting. Is it him? Suppressing my raging fury, I smirked. Where are you taking her? Tell this princess. The amicable atmosphere in the room froze for a moment. Nan Gong Wen Tian frowned. Where have you been, making Lionel worry for so long? For harming Lioner, you've already received my 20 lashes. Let it go. To apologize to Lioner, you must hand over the rest of her dowry. Otherwise, I won't marry you. Bai Lion was the noblewoman from before, her hand still bandaged like a stick, yet she showed no signs of peace. Bai Lion looked at the phoenix wedding gown on the rack, her eyes sparkling. How beautiful! Her slender fingers traced the embroidery. When she looked at me, she flinched back. Lioner has never worn such beautiful clothes. Will Her Royal Highness the Princess not get angry again? The room was silent. No one spoke for a long time. Bai Lion furrowed her brows, a light breeze bringing tears to her eyes. Nan Gong Wen Tian embraced her tenderly, then glared at me in anger. Guan Tang, today I am here for our marriage. I allow you to marry me, but Lioner must be my legitimate wife, and you can only be a concubine. I gave a cold chuckle. Bai Lion clutched her chest, her face wet with tears. Princess, you are wealthy beyond measure. It's fine even if you're a concubine. She cowered, pretending to be very afraid of me. But Lioner is only a countess. How can she compare to your Royal Highness the Princess? If she were also a concubine, she would surely die of shame. Nan Gong Wen Tian tenderly patted her back, his eyes undisguisedly disdainful. I never thought you'd be so jealous, it sickens me. I took a step back. He found me sickening, I found him filthy. If my ghost children and grandchildren were to eat this kind of person, I feared they would get diarrhea. Nan Gong Wen Tian, thinking I was scared, put on a benevolent air. Guan Tang outside, Lioner will be the main wife and you a concubine. In the prince consort's residence, you will both be equals. Is that acceptable? Don't be too greedy. I curled my lips. Anything else? Bai Lion's eyes lit up, ready to offer thanks. The prince consort is of the Zhenbei prince's household. He cannot have an empty title. A regent prince would be acceptable. Nan Gong Wen Tian's face beamed with delight. Moreover, Lioner has no dowry. As a concubine, it's inconvenient for you to outshine her. Transfer your dowry to her courtyard. As for your wedding gown, you are not allowed to wear red. Give the wedding gown custom-made for you by the Imperial Garment Bureau to Lioner. Nan Gong Wen Tian was dissatisfied with my reaction, his face cold as he ordered. Why are you standing there stunned? Hurry and attend to Lioner to try on the clothes. I wanted to laugh, but tears welled up in my eyes. Yes, even within my dantian, she could still hear the insults directed at her. A princess living such days, how ridiculous. Bai Lion was a countess of the northern barbarian tribe. Her father once buried alive 10,000 people of the northern border. After the former emperor conquered the north, the barbarian people were expelled beyond the pass, and the most beautiful countesses were offered as tribute. The former emperor probably never imagined that a tribute would run rampant over a princess. This princess recalls that the countess's father once beheaded the old Zhenbei prince. I chuckled maliciously. And now the young master and the countess have set aside their animosity. But I, for one, do not wish to be a foot-washing servant for foreign barbarians. Nan Gong Wen Tian raised his hand and slapped me. A martial artist, his strength was immense. The slap made my head throb. Bai Lion gasped in fright, covering her mouth but couldn't hide the triumphant gleam in her eyes. Lioner lives as young Master Brother's person and dies as young Master Brother's ghost. How can you sow discord between us? Moreover, her eyes darted around, revealing the arrogance of a dog relying on its master's power. Times have changed. Young Master Brother has so many troops, he still has to consider Her Royal Highness the Princess's feelings. Lioner feels so sorry for him. I licked my loose tooth. These two dogs, male and female, must have used this method to threaten the little princess. The little princess endured humiliation for the stability of the court, never expecting them to be so greedy. I spat on the ground. Why don't you die in pain, you fake? Nan Gong Wen Tian's eyes widened. He drew his sword and held it to my neck. Guan Tang, are you tired of living? Can I no longer command you? Assassinating royalty. I blew on my fingernails. Who exactly is tired of living now? Nan Gong Wen Tian's face turned ashen. He slowly lowered his sword. I stepped closer, pressing him. Taking a princess as a concubine, don't you dare call yourself the heavenly king just because your name is Wen Tian. Even the most despicable man in the world wouldn't covet a daughter's dowry. As for the regent prince, I glanced at him from head to toe, sneering, is that you? Nan Gong Wen Tian's eyes were bloodshot, breathing heavily like a bull, clearly enraged. He grabbed a wet nurse, cutting across her neck with a single sword stroke. Blood splattered across the room. His expression was as calm as if he had just slaughtered a chicken. Now what? I used my sleeve to wipe the blood from my face, finally breaking into a smile. He is indeed the Zhenbei prince consort, commanding 200,000 troops. Killing a few people is nothing to him. Just like 10 years ago, a general returning to the capital to visit his family was murdered by bandits. Everyone knew it was a trap set by Nan Gong Wen Tian to claim merit, but everyone kept silent, let alone a mere wet nurse. Bai Lion strained to mock, "Your Royal Highness Princess, a woman's husband is her heaven. Who would pity such an arrogant and perverse woman? Isn't Wen Tian brother right?" I twisted my wrist and slapped her across the face. "So busy scolding, I forgot to slap you. How laughable. Even the most common brothel in the capital wouldn't use such crude tactics. Is there really no one in this world who cares about her?" Bai Lion, disbelieving, covered her face, weeping weakly. "Your Royal Highness Princess, what's wrong with you?" I quickly slapped her right cheek again. "Impudent, what you and I, do you think you're in your own tent?" Malice flashed in Bai Lion's eyes. She burst into tears, falling into Nan Gong Wen Tian's arms. I lifted my skirt and kicked her, making her fall flat on her face. A sudden fear welled up in my heart. I clutched my chest, smiling bitterly. Such deep love, even resistance causes her heart pain. Nan Gong Wen Tian angrily kicked away the palace maid who was in the way. Seeing Bai Lion on the ground, her face covered in red marks, I scrambled away. My head throbbed, and before I could cry out, I was flung hard to the ground. Nan Gong Wen Tian grabbed me by the neck, lifting me, his face filled with disgust. "Why won't you let her go? Why?" I looked at him as if he were trash, a despicable servant. The sight of him made my eyes ache. What Nan Gong Wen Tian hated most was any mention of his birth mother. Although he was the Zhenbei prince's biological son, his birth mother was a foot-washing maid. This maid had caused the death of the legitimate son born to the main wife, and after giving birth to Nan Gong Wen Tian, she also gave the Zhenbei prince infertility medicine. If he hadn't been the only son, he would never have sat on the prince consort's throne. After all, who isn't a servant? Therefore, whenever anyone mentioned servant, Nan Gong Wen Tian would fly into a rage. Sure enough, he let go of me, kicked me in the heart, his eyes bloodshot with fury. I coughed, my throat filled with bloody foam. Nan Gong Wen Tian was about to strike again when a dignified female voice interrupted him. "Stop." The blood I had held back for so long gushed out, splattering onto the person who had arrived. I coughed up blood and cowered back. "Aunt, save me!" the accompanying noblewomen and ladies gasped in unison. The one who arrived was Grand Princess Duanjing. At 8, she wielded a saber and rode a horse. At 16, she pacified the northern frontier. With her status as a princess, she was granted the title of Marquis of 10,000 households and commanded 80,000 troops. Even the Zhenbei prince had to respectfully salute her when they met. Today, she happened to be hosting a banquet in the garden. Small matters were insignificant, but weighty matters were unbearable. The princess suffering injustice in the background was not a big deal, but if exposed, it was an insult to the imperial family. Even courtesans knew to consider the owner before beating a dog. Nan Gong Wen Tian's imposing aura significantly diminished. I tilted my face up, weeping, making sure everyone in the garden clearly saw the slap marks on my face. Nan Gong Wen Tian bowed respectfully. "It was just a childish prank, troubling Grand Princess. This humble one truly." The Grand Princess snorted. "Kicking him in the chest is also a prank. Who inflicted these marks on her face? Young master is quite formidable." Nan Gong Wen Tian was sweating profusely, still wanting to deny it. I endured the pain in my heart and quickly spoke first. "It wasn't my aunt. The young master and Countess Lion Hua are deeply in love and couldn't bear for his beloved to suffer injustice, so he forced Guan Tang to willingly become a concubine." Nan Gong Wen Tian couldn't help but interject. "No, Guan Tang's temperament is unruly. She is not worthy of being the main wife." Someone in the distance chuckled mockingly. "Greedy for beauty yet unwilling to give up the benefits of marrying a princess? Isn't this wanting to have your cake and eat it too?" The noblewomen covered their mouths, giggling softly, and the entire garden buzzed with chatter. The Grand Princess's voice was dangerous. "Is that so?" Nan Gong Wen Tian stiffened his neck. "This humble one has a hidden sorrow." I quickly added another stab. "Such is the case. The young master commands powerful troops and holds a high and important position. Guan Tang, as a princess enjoying the stipend of 10,000 households, is willing to dedicate her all for the stability of the dynasty. But but he wants to give my dowry and land fief to that foreign princess and also wants to become regent prince. When Guan Tang refused, he immediately wanted to kill me. I bowed my head, sobbing. Nan Gong Wen Tian's flushed face paled inch by inch, finally turning as white as paper. The garden was utterly silent, save for the chirping of birds and cicadas. The grand princess helped me up, patting my shoulder. Good child. Empress Shangdu, who built the empire with Emperor Shangzu, once said that in our dynasty's weddings, the man kneels, the woman does not. Daughters of the imperial family shall never be sent for marriage alliances. How can a legitimate princess be made a concubine to serve a powerful minister? She unhooked the horsewhip from her waist and spoke softly. Your aunt taught you that when faced with insubordination, you should give him a proper lesson, not comply. Even a stable boy, if he disrespects a princess, it is like disrespecting the imperial family, and he must die. I gritted my teeth, tears streaming down, accepting the horsewhip with both resentment and a sense of injustice. Turning to Nan Gong Wen Tian, the corner of my mouth curled in a mocking smile, my voice still weak. Young master, I have troubled you greatly. Didn't you already whip the little princess 20 times? Nan Gong Wen Tian glared, still thinking I wouldn't dare strike. I raised my eyebrows and lashed the whip straight across his face. Little princess, compromise only makes people push further. Blood debts must be paid with blood. Exactly 20 lashes, no more, no less. After the whipping, I collapsed, exhausted, sobbing, facing Nan Gong Wen Tian's dark eyes. The grand princess helped me up, calmly stating, I will make things clear with my good nephew about what happened today. If the princess is bullied to this extent, what kind of emperor can he be? He might as well go pull a horse for the young master. Getting into the carriage, the benevolent smile on the grand princess's face immediately vanished. She sipped her tea, gently pushing a petal floating in the water. Guan Tang, what was this performance for? I smiled. It turns out the little princess suffered so many grievances, and all the adults in the family were cold and heartless. I picked up a teacup myself. Aunt, you jest. Imperial princesses supporting each other, isn't that natural? I heard that my cousin is discussing marriage recently. The grand princess's eyes suddenly turned sharp. I recalled the news from the sisters in the pleasure house and spoke unhurriedly. When Imperial Father was alive, he and Aunt led troops to pacify the north and recover 3 prefectures. Although Imperial Father's benevolence was widespread, allowing the people of the 3 prefectures to take examinations, he could not avoid the remnants of the bandits. Aunt's family is powerful and influential and carries imperial blood. To avoid contention for the throne, Aunt intends to choose a scholar for her daughter. Preferably from a humble background. If exceptionally talented, even a farmer would do. Coincidentally, this year's top scholar is 23, said to be so engrossed in his studies that he forgot to marry, and he grew up in the north, tall and handsome. I remained silent, only smiling at the grand princess. After a long silence, she took my hand. Good child, your aunt remembers your kindness. When you're free, remember to visit your aunt's manor. I curtsied, seeing the grand princess off. Of course I will come. Because there were only 2 great generals in the court. Besides Nan Gong Wen Tian's faction, there was only General Zhu, related through the grand princess's marriage. If the grand princess's family were to fall, the dynasty would change in less than a year. To behead that dog Nan Gong Wen Tian, I couldn't do without my good aunt. The play in the Imperial Temporary Palace quickly spread from backstage to the court. Before the morning audience, memorials accusing Zhenbei Prince Consort Nan Gong Wen Tian had piled up like a mountain in the imperial study. Several stern old censors were creating a commotion at home, vowing to bring their coffins to court. If the emperor remained indecisive, they would commit suicide right in the court. I sat in the imperial study with my imperial brother, playing chess. The chess pieces clicked softly. Li Ju made a move. Guan Tang, how do you want me to handle that scoundrel? He thought I was still sulking. The little princess was truly too naive. After the former emperor's death, Li Ju ascended the throne. I didn't know how busy the court affairs were, only that every time she sought Li Ju to play, he was busy. She could only talk to herself alone in the palace. Later, when the young master was willing to play and confide in her, she naturally regarded him as her everything. Similar incidents had happened before. Li Ju initially wanted to punish Nan Gong Wen Tian, but as soon as Nan Gong Wen Tian said a few sweet words, the little princess immediately forgave him, weeping and asking Li Ju to withdraw the order. Gradually, Li Ju only reprimanded Nan Gong Wen Tian, always thinking he could protect his younger sister, and Nan Gong Wen Tian wouldn't dare go too far. I suppressed the bitterness in my heart. Imperial brother, do you not want to see me? This was the question the little princess always wanted to ask. The servants all watched their master's expression. If this emperor had cared for her more, she wouldn't have suffered so much, wouldn't have cherished even the slightest sweetness. An invisible lock of long hair settled on Li Ju's shoulder, awaiting a reply. Li Ju patted my head. What's wrong? I've never not wanted to see you. On the contrary, Li Guan Tang, I sent eunuchs to invite you several times, but you always sulked and didn't come. I chuckled softly. So it was that wretch causing trouble. I shook my head, tears in my eyes. I never did. No one ever called me. Every time I sought Imperial brother, Consort Lion always said Imperial brother was busy and asked me to come another time. Consort Lion's younger sister stole my fiancé wasn't enough. She also snatched the golden phoenix hairpin Imperial mother left behind and forbade me from telling Imperial brother, because Consort Lion would whisper in your ear. Imperial brother, am I very bad? Does everyone hate me? Li Ju slammed the table. Impudent. Consort Lion had just opened the door and walked in, her lips trembling. I smirked slightly. It seems someone is about to face misfortune. Consort Lion, now to be called Little Princess Lion, is to be punished by being sent to the cold palace to recite scriptures and pray for blessings for me. The Imperial talent selection, stagnant for 6 years, finally reopened. Court officials sighed, exclaiming that heaven truly had eyes. The jewelry and fabric shops in the city were trampled 3 inches deep by customers. The Zhenbei general flogged Nan Gong Wen Tian 50 times, dragging him roughly to court to apologize. The emperor no longer tried to mediate with the old prince as before, only gently reclaimed the military power from the manor, ordering him to return home for self-reflection. The capital was stirred by an undercurrent of unrest. In the Xiong'an palace, after 7 or 8 incense sticks had burned down, I finally dozed off. In my dream, I returned to the past. My father was a scholar who repeatedly failed the imperial examinations, became addicted to gambling, and fell into despair. My mother was repeatedly pawned off, giving birth to one child after another, eventually dying in childbirth. Before the first 7 days of mourning were over, my father sold me, then 5 years old, to a brothel. My parents were both beautiful in their youth, but I surpassed them. At 14, I was forced into service. Only I knew the bitter and sweet tastes of life. At 18, a young man snuck into my courtyard. Around 15 or 16, his brocade robes, worn for show, were already frayed. I asked him what he wanted, and he said he would marry me. I almost laughed myself unconscious. Little young master, let your wings grow first. He flushed with anger and ran off. 2 years later, we met again. He had grown taller and threw down an ounce of silver, barely enough for a cup of tea. If not for the saber at his waist, the old madam would have chased him away. As a piece of music ended, he quietly climbed over the wall into the courtyard, slipping 1,000 taels of silver into my hand, all small, loose change, of various denominations. Look, this is the betrothal gift. As soon as he finished speaking, his face flushed, and he almost stumbled into the pond, kicking his own feet. It was a strange occurrence. Many men offered thousands of taels to spend the night with me. All of them would utter words of love, swearing eternal vows. But he was the only one who brought 1,000 taels to ask for my hand in marriage. I replied indifferently, not enough. The cost of my redemption is no small sum. He scratched his head. I know, I've already given the madam 100,000 taels. This is all that's left. I was so surprised I stopped fanning myself. Where did you get so much money? He timidly glanced at me. I won many battles. If you fight fast, there are rewards. I liked you before I left. I used to read your poems. If you were a man, your talent would surely be no less than mine. My family is now in decline with no proper rules anymore. If you enter, you will be the main wife. All the money is spent, there won't be enough to take any more concubines. He bent down to look at me, his gaze focused and sincere. Lady Tao Hong, are you willing to marry me? In my dream, my face flushed. The old madam trembled, prostrating herself on the ground, her clothes drenched. Good daughter, go, our kind women of the pleasure quarters are the most defiled. To be taken away by someone is a great blessing. I only heard him say, women are born without control over their own lives, like someone buying and selling her, not like a good girl such as yourself. How did I respond then? So much time had passed, I no longer remembered clearly. Repeated calls woke me from my dream. A palace maid, under my furious gaze, stammered. The Grand Princess sent an invitation, requesting your Royal Highness to her manor for tea. I wiped my tears and got up to freshen myself. The Grand Princess waved her hand in front of me. See if any of these children catch your eye. Before me were several young women, each with her own charm. The Grand Princess was originally of the imperial clan. Before Li Ju's selection of imperial consorts, she would often adopt a few prominent strangers as goddaughters. Li Ju would also show deference by keeping one or two. If they bore children, it was good. If not, Li Ju accepting them was also a way for the imperial clan to show their loyalty. I stood up, meticulously observing each one. A young woman quickly curtsied to me, her skirt swaying, carrying a faint trace of blood chi. Indeed, I took a deep breath, pointed at her, and shouted, "Strip her clothes off for me." The Grand Princess was startled, reaching out to touch my forehead. What is this about? My eyes were firm. I enunciated each word. Strip her clothes off. Did you not hear this princess's words? The palace maids looked at the Grand Princess's expression and unanimously obeyed. The young woman's clothes were entirely removed, leaving only her vest and underwear, her face revealing a pathetic expression. I picked up a cup of hot tea and splashed it directly onto her chest. Where the hot liquid met her skin, a pattern of a 16-petal chrysanthemum with 8 layers of petals immediately appeared. The Grand Princess's face changed color. This is the Imperial Japanese design. Previously, captured male spies all had this mark, only theirs were black. Women in the inner chambers usually don't know this design. Even if accidentally revealed, it's easy to conceal. Although the Emperor knows, he usually turns off the lights during his visits. The young woman, seeing that her plot was exposed, looked towards the sun and spoke a few words in a foreign tongue. I threw a punch at her cheek, forcing her to spit out several black teeth. A small cat ran over to lick it, and a moment later, it bled from all 7 orifices, dying with a mournful cry. The Grand Princess knocked over the teacup on the table, angrily shouting, "Search her! If you don't find anything conclusive, bring me your heads." Half an hour later, a box of scented powder was placed on the table. The imperial physician carefully tasted it, then collapsed to his knees with a thud. This is Si Jiao San. Used alone, it's an aphrodisiac, but if it encounters Long Yuan Xiang, it will activate, and the parasite eggs inside will hatch, burrowing into a man's 5 viscera and 6 internal organs, making it incurable by water. The head steward was so scared he wept. This young lady was brought by the Nan Gong family. She's been living here peacefully for years. How could she? The Grand Princess was drenched in sweat and slumped into her chair. Li Guan Tang, my good child. She clasped my hand tightly. You have saved my entire family's lives, my dear. Your aunt and the entire Zhu clan swear that we are willing to dedicate our lives for you. If we break this vow, we are willing to fall into the 18 layers of hell and never be reborn. I pulled out a handkerchief, gently wiping the sweat from her forehead. Aunt, your words are too heavy. As I said, imperial princesses should always help each other. I only found her gait peculiar, which startled you, Aunt, but there is truly one matter I need Aunt's help with. The horse carriage rattled forward. I fiddled with the jade hairpin in my hand, silent. This was a jade hairpin for the coming-of-age ceremony. I had embroidered flowers for half a year to earn 50 taels of silver. How long did I choose? How many rebukes from the shop owner did I endure to select such a fine piece? Alas, it was broken, and the crack was stained with dark blood. The town god's temple lady was about to prostrate herself before me. Oh my ancestor. The spy has been delivered, the goods have been retrieved, why won't you give this old one a smile? This old one had to risk her old face too? I chuckled self-deprecatingly. Even the town god couldn't find the body. My husband was harmed to such an extent that not even a handful of bones remained. My heart ached with waves of bitterness. In the passing wind, the cries of 10,000 ghosts echoed. The town god's temple lady's expression changed. My ancestor. This old one has tried her best to conceal you, but with 10,000 ghosts stirring like this, it will surely leave traces. I softly replied, Your ladyship, I know. I died so tragically back then. If not for your benevolent grace in sharing half your incense offerings, I would have been devoured by evil spirits long ago. Now I have seized a body and reborn, still wishing to assassinate Nan Gong Wen Tian. If I were to encounter a righteous and just deity, they would have long since reported me to the gods of thunder and lightning to scatter my soul. If I succeed, I will build a temple and erect a golden statue for you. If I fail, The town god's temple lady sighed, her eyes filled with sorrow. If you fail, this old one is still the town god. I can help you endure a few lightning bolts. Don't be afraid. The coachman suddenly leaped from the carriage. The horse neighed loudly, then plunged straight into a deep ravine. I lightly launched myself onto the cliff face. A long saber was already blocking my path. That arrogant face coldly ordered, "Guards, this courtesan dared to escape without permission. Quickly drag her back to the military camp and strip her bare for all to see." I covered my mouth, chuckling softly. Does the young master not understand himself? Does His Highness truly not want to preserve the lives of his entire clan? Nan Gong Wen Tian's face stiffened. He swung the saber hilt, intending to strike my face. Nan Gong Wen Tian was old in years, but his insidious and immoral tactics remained unchanged. Relying on the military power in his hands, he intended to destroy the little princess's innocence. Once a woman loses her purity, wouldn't she be molded to anyone's will? If the little princess were stripped naked, no matter who the culprit was, people would only say she lacked chastity and caution. If she were truly a chaste and loyal woman, she should have ended her life long ago to preserve her honor. I smiled coldly. It seems those 20 lashes affected Nan Gong Wen Tian considerably, enough to make him act recklessly like a cornered dog. This time, Nan Gong Wen Tian absolutely left no room for survival. He stood at the edge of the cliff, fearing that I might return safely. Alas, the false dragon's aura on him grew weaker and weaker, no longer enough to hinder me. I slowly pressed closer to him. Pushing away the saber pointed at me, I smiled faintly at the soldiers behind him. I am the legitimate princess of the former emperor, the blood sister of the current emperor princess Li Guan Tang. The young master, blinded by passion, made a grave mistake, but I urge you good men not to ruin your own futures. Nan Gong Wen Tian wanted to stop me from speaking, but it was too late. Sure enough, after I revealed my identity, the soldiers all quietly took a step back. News of Nan Gong Wen Tian had spread throughout the region, who didn't have relatives and friends. How could they not know? They only received a few taels of silver as stipends each month. They would never dare to risk their entire clan to harm a princess. Nan Gong Wen Tian's face turned livid with anger. He snatched out his saber and lunged straight at me. With one hand, I pushed Su Zin, who was about to block me, out of the way. With the other, I pulled out half of a tiger tally. "How dare you? Why don't you kneel immediately?" The tiger tally was divided into two halves. One half was held by the Zhenbei prince, the other by the imperial family. Forging a tiger tally was a crime punishable by the extermination of 3 generations of one's family, but I was already dead beyond death. What was there to fear? Therefore, logically speaking, I was now the commander of this army unit, including that arrogant young master. Nan Gong Wen Tian froze in place. The soldiers behind him all knelt down. Long live the princess. Long live the princess. The corner of my lips curled slightly. I glanced at Nan Gong Wen Tian. He gritted his teeth and knelt, his face filled with humiliation. I stepped on his face with my jewel-encrusted shoes. "Speak, are you mute?" Nan Gong Wen Tian's voice was chilling to the bone. "May the princess live in peace." I smoothed my hair. "Arise, you may rise." Nan Gong Wen Tian, seeing his plan fail, was about to offer his resignation when I called him back. "Young master brother, it's been a long time since you watched a play with me. How about we watch a good play together today, He looked up, his face showing surprise mixed with joy, perhaps self-deluding about something. The carriage slowly returned to the capital, entering the city of Shangjing just as the gates were about to close. Nan Gong Wen Tian looked at me, and I did not miss the glint of astonishment in his eyes. "Princess, where are we going? I knew you couldn't bear to leave me. After you and Lioner enter the prince's residence together, I will certainly love you wholeheartedly." His words carried a hint of false shyness. Indeed, all men are petty. I lifted the carriage curtain. The sunset still lingered on the horizon, and the markets had begun to hang colorful lanterns. Travelers bustled about, a scene of peaceful prosperity. Nan Gong Wen Tian looked in the direction of my gaze. A hurried carriage sped past, throwing out a disheveled woman covered in red marks. She struggled to get up, revealing a very familiar face. Seeing Nan Gong Wen Tian's pale face, I smiled brightly. "Interesting, truly interesting." Nan Gong Wen Tian roared. "Li Guan Tang, you are truly heartless." I retracted my smile, looking at him coldly. "Do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself. I am merely using your own stick to beat your own back. Heartless, isn't the one who first conceived of this vicious plan worse than a beast?" Nan Gong Wen Tian choked on his words, quickly jumping out of the carriage to embrace the woman. That woman looked at me in the carriage, her eyes filled with hatred. I am a vengeful ghost. To ask me for morality? Isn't that the most ridiculous thing in this world? When I caught her, Countess Lion Hua was still very stubborn. Her 10 fingernails were painted in vibrant colors, a phoenix wax hairpin, a relic of her imperial mother, adorned her head, and she wore a brocade robe gifted by imperial brother. Her lips moved continuously. I didn't expect it either. The moment I spoke, Wen Tian brother immediately agreed, and I even found the location myself. So what if you escaped? Your body has long since been touched by others. Wen Tian brother finds you dirty just by looking at you. If it were me, I'd rather die cleanly. The little princess was too kind, which allowed this wretch to act so brazenly in front of her. But I couldn't tolerate it even for a moment. Countess, don't you want to change? Then I will grant your wish. After court was dismissed, Li Ju entered my palace. I was sitting on a couch, leisurely tying a knot in a rope. He looked at me, struggling to speak. Who are you? I command you to return Li Guan Tang to me. Ah, it seems what I've done has reached this good imperial brother. Are you looking for her? She has been killed by others. I lay lazily on the couch. Tears of blood streamed from my hollow, dark eye sockets, drop by drop. Where were you at that time? Li Ju grabbed my leg, pleading earnestly. Immortal, I swear to build a temple for you. I beg you, please let go of my sister, will you? I clicked my tongue, kicking him away. What were you doing before? Now you come here, shedding crocodile tears, pretending to be compassionate. He gritted his teeth, kneeling and banging his head loudly. I beg you, I am willing to transfer my lifespan to Li Guan Tang. The child is still too young. The sisters in the pleasure house often enjoyed reading storybooks. They often depicted a woman who endured all sorts of torment. After she died, her husband finally realized his deep love for her. But by then, they were separated by heaven and earth, leaving only the husband, high in rank and position, to hold his place as the main wife, gnawing at endless loneliness. As for whether he had concubines or children, the storybooks never mentioned it, but surely he had plenty. Whenever I saw someone buy that kind of storybook, I would curse their ancestors for 8 generations. What's the point of weeping at a grave after someone has died? It's just a pretense of deep affection and righteousness, but such beastly deeds were plentiful. My hair wrapped tightly around Li Ju. The dragon chi on him was too faint. Li Ju still carried poison. If not treated, he might not live for many more years. I like to eat fingers the most. I glanced at his slender fingers, casually licking my lips meaningfully. If they were an emperor's fingers, I might consider it. Li Ju didn't bat an eye, drawing out a dao. Inside the Dan Tian, the little princess began to stir. This was the first time she wanted to contend for control of this body. Sister, eat my fingers. Don't eat imperial brothers. Imperial father died early. Imperial brother had to ascend the throne before he was even 15. Court officials were eager to depose him. Imperial brother protected me. It wasn't easy. I don't blame him. Sister, I usually wear pearl and rose powder. My fingers are very sweet. Eat me, please, please. Tusk, these 2 siblings are exactly alike, both so foolish. I roared sharply, shut up all of you. If you utter another sound, I'll kill you all. My hair lashed the Dao away. I tapped his head, asking blandly, I want your entire lifespan. Are you willing? Li Ju nodded. Willing, as long as the imperial edict of abdication is written. I scoffed coldly. Then wait until you've finished writing it. Nan Gong Wen Tian came to Li Ju with his military achievements, seeking to marry me. He vowed to be with me for 1 life, 1 lifetime, 1 pair of people. I told Li Ju to agree, and he reclaimed all military power from the Zhenbei prince's family. Nan Gong Wen Tian rode his horse to the outskirts all day, occasionally coming to the palace to confide in me. I welcomed him warmly. Young master brother, do you think these are beautiful? On the table were dozens of sets of women's jewelry. I smiled and slipped a box into his hand. These are all things I made for the elders in the family. Although they are from the palace, they do not violate regulations. Young master brother, please take them first. When it's time to offer tea, I blushed and pouted slightly, my voice growing softer, we will offer them together. Young master brother, I blinked. I heard that when you were 11, you repelled 300,000 northern troops. Is that true? The corner of Nan Gong Wen Tian's mouth curved up, full of pride. Of course it's true. But why did I hear that someone else led the troops? I asked slowly. His name seemed to be Wang Su. Nan Gong Wen Tian's face changed dramatically, his lips trembling uncontrollably. How could that be? Repelling 300,000 troops could only be me and only allowed to be me. He grabbed my shoulder, his voice harsh. From now on, don't listen to those baseless rumors anymore, understood? I watched the dragon chi on Nan Gong Wen Tian's body almost completely vanish. Excitedly, I licked my lips. Guan Tang understands. I nestled into his arms, secretly calculating how to pluck his heart in the most agonizing way. My voice turned as gentle as water. I vow to live and die with you, never leaving you for all eternity. After he excused himself, a shadow submerged into the crowd. I disdainfully took off my outer robe and prepared water. Having been touched by a beast, I needed to cleanse myself. After lighting the lamp, I sat by the brazier, drying my hair. Master, after returning to the prince's residence, the young master snuck out the back door with his belongings and headed towards Ping Kang Alley and Willow Alley. I raised my hand to stop her. I know all about it. Ping Kang Alley hid that by lion, and Willow Alley was where the young master's mother, who had long feigned death, resided. Nan Gong Wen Tian often brought the little princess to Willow Alley, forcing her to serve her future mother-in-law. How ridiculous, a golden-branched, jade-leaf princess serving a common maid who faked her death. If he hadn't had the favor of heaven and a bit of false chi protecting him, he would have died 800 times over. Stupid beyond measure. This princess doesn't like serving mothers-in-law. Kill her. The princess's grand wedding was exceedingly elaborate, especially since Li Ju even allowed me to perform the rituals in the imperial palace. With tasks rushing by dizzyingly, I slipped out of the palace along the river path and climbed onto the rafters of the prince's residence. Nan Gong Wen Tian's 3 lamps of destiny were already dim, and the signs of death were clear on his face. I pinched his chin, blew a soft breath, and infiltrated his dream. Young Nan Gong Wen Tian sat on a high platform, pointing at the approaching general on horseback, coldly ordering, "String ropes to trip his horse. This young master wants him to die a complete death, not a teacher." The household guards swarmed forward. After a bloody battle, the young general, fighting alone, was cut down by a flurry of blades. In death, he still clutched a golden peach blossom hairpin, like a gift to bring home to his wife. Nan Gong Wen Tian disgustedly glanced at the blood splattered on his brocade boots. The butler standing behind him understood his master's intent and immediately ordered his body to be chopped into pieces and thrown into the burial pit. I trembled with hatred. My husband, my Wang Xian, he bravely returned from defeating the enemy, only to die tragically at the hands of his own people. The town god's temple lady nodded softly at me. I stuck out my long tongue. Summon Nan Gong Wen Tian's soul? He had committed too many acts of rebellion. Ordinary vengeful spirits dared not approach. I blew out his lamp of destiny, leaving him to the mercy of the wronged souls. The first to find him was a young scholar. He crawled forward, his limbs twisted and broken, covered in blood, and climbed onto Nan Gong Wen Tian's bed. "Young master, it wasn't this servant who broke the vase. Why didn't you tell the madam?" He lunged, tearing off a piece of Nan Gong Wen Tian's soul. Nan Gong Wen Tian convulsed in pain, sitting up, gasping for breath. "You are a servant. Dying for this young master is your good fortune." He stared wide-eyed as a father and daughter approached hand in hand. The daughter's face was covered in scars, and she wept, sticking out her severed tongue. "Young master, this servant had a freedom contract. I didn't want to be your concubine. Why did you take my father's and my lives?" Nan Gong Wen Tian struggled desperately but still lost a piece of his soul. He woke with a start, patting his chest to calm himself. "It's a dream, just a dream." But before his bed now crowded with wronged souls, they collectively asked, "Young master, the barbarians were clearly on the verge of defeat. Why did you abandon us to their slaughter?" I smiled with delight. "When you're alive and your soul is eaten away, that pain is worse than a woman giving birth. Young master, without dragon chi, killing you is too easy, but how can I let you die so peacefully?" After he was bitten to his last breath, I put on a red dress, let my hair down, and grains of chaff fell from my mouth. I brushed my hair aside, and pus and blood dripped onto his forehead. "Young master, we shall meet again tomorrow morning." A heartbreaking shriek echoed through the entire prince's residence. I plunged into the river. From then on, I visited every day, rain or shine, never missing an appointment. Finally, the day of the grand wedding arrived. I wore a crimson wedding gown, sitting formally in the main hall. Outside, gongs and drums shook the earth, firecrackers exploded, filling the sky with noise. My wedding with my husband back then was so simple. My mother died early. My gambling father accumulated debts and disappeared without a trace. My husband's father died on the battlefield early on, and his mother, despising her daughter-in-law as a pleasure woman, feigned illness and did not attend. At that wedding, we couldn't even find an elder to pay our respects to. My husband and I cleaned our small house ourselves, wore hastily made wedding attire from a fabric shop, and bowed to heaven and earth before red candles. I smiled through tears. If only he could see me in this grand attire, would we have had the chance to grow old together. In the hall now, only I and a strange little palace maid remained. A strange, ominous aura suddenly surged. I decisively flung off my veil, only to see Lion, quick as lightning, gripping my neck tightly like a venomous snake. "Wretch, dare to harm me? I will make you suffer 10, no, 100 times worse torment," I smiled calmly. Lion roared furiously. "What are you laughing at? Laugh again, and I'll mutilate your face." Before she finished speaking, she clutched her stomach and collapsed to the ground. I squatted beside her, my face full of innocence, smiling. "You're so foolish. How can there be someone who falls for the same trick every time? Wen Tian brother will come save me," Lion shrieked. "By then, I'll chop you into 1,000 pieces." I pulled the Tao from her stomach, smiling apologetically. "Oops, my hand slipped. What did you just say?" I stabbed harder into her wound, twisting it forcefully, then apologized with feigned sincerity. "I applied too much pearl cream today, so my hand slipped again, see?" Lion stared at me blankly, the malice in her eyes not much different from a ghost like me. She sneered, "So what if you know? Wen Tian brother has already attacked the imperial city. By then what?" I sighed. "I know all your schemes. How can you be so sure Nan Gong Wen Tian will win?" I sincerely asked her, "Countess Lion Hua, do you people never use this besides shared room secret techniques and beauty?" I pointed to my head and sighed again. She spat out a mouthful of blood. "What are you so proud of? Wen Tian brother has poisoned the incense. Anyone without the antidote will succumb to the poison and die within half a day. The grand priest said he is the true son of heaven, the new emperor." "Poisoned to death, you say?" I tied my tongue into a knot, tilting my head to look at her, accidentally letting an eye fall out. "Are you talking about me?" Lion's eyes rolled back and she fainted. The palace maids and eunuchs all bowed to me. I walked against the flow of people, carrying a lunchbox. Inside was a freshly chopped finger soup, surely still very fresh. Thinking of that person, my heart suddenly felt desolate. If he were still alive, our child would probably be running and jumping by now, wouldn't they? The more I thought, the deeper the hatred in my heart grew, but the brighter the smile on my lips became. The sound of clinking wine cups echoed beyond the Bao Huo Palace. I gently pushed open the palace door. Everyone turned to look at me simultaneously. What kind of expression did the Prime Minister wear? The old censors were eager to submit impeachment memorials. I raised the lunchbox. The wine must have made everyone drunk. I brought hot soup for His Majesty. Nan Gong Wen Tian glanced at me, a flicker of disgust in his eyes. "Why are you here? What kind of decorum is this?" I smiled brightly, taking his hand. "There's a good play today, I must watch it carefully." The sound of the petition drum reverberated. The Grand Princess supported a trembling old woman who knelt before the palace. "This old one is Madame Hu of the Ning and Marquis Manor, mother of General Wang Xian. I kowtow to your majesty." Nan Gong Wen Tian tried to rise, but my pincer-like hand gripped him tightly in place. "This humble minister's wife wishes to accuse Zhenbei Prince Consort of falsely claiming military achievements, murdering loyal officials, colluding with enemies to betray the country, and conspiring with bandits." The entire hall buzzed with commotion. Nan Gong Wen Tian's eyes glowed red, roaring repeatedly. "Nonsense! Madame Hu of the Ning and Marquis Manor met bandits 10 years ago. Her bones are no longer extant." Nan Gong Wen Tian staggered and knelt on the ground, repeatedly kowtowing. "It's a grave injustice, your majesty. This humble servant is innocent." Madame Hu coldly glanced at him. "Innocent? That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. The bandits outside the city, the northern horsemen, the Japanese pirates on the coast, they all carry imperial Tao issued by the Zhenbei prince's residence. Which statement, which act is an injustice to you? My poor son's family had already fallen into decline before he was born. To earn rewards, he went to war at 15. At 19, he repelled 300,000 northern troops. And yet The old mother wept mournfully in the grand hall. My mind drifted back 11 years to when he tightly held my hand before departing for war. "My dear wife, rest assured, this time I will surely earn an imperial edict for you. I clutched his hand, tears falling. Don't cry, I love to see you smile. When I return, my dear wife, please bear me a child. He always kept his word, but this time he broke his promise. He lies forever in the northern winds and sands, even his accomplishments stolen by others. That year, I rushed to the petition drum, but a sudden blow from behind knocked me unconscious. When I awoke, it was an endless nightmare. The more Madame Hu spoke, the more the false dragon chi on Nan Gong Wen Tian dissipated. He tightly clutched my leg. Guan Tang, save me, please save me. He wept hysterically, so despicable that even ghosts would be afraid. General Zulang entered the hall, his crimson official robe stained with blood. He bowed. The rebels have been exterminated. The Zhenbei prince has committed suicide. Suddenly, the false dragon chi shattered completely. My head drooped down to my feet, my sharp fangs bared. I'm not Guan Tang, young master. Have you forgotten? I am little Tao Hong. You ordered people to cover my face with my hair, to fill my mouth with chaff, to prevent me from going to King Yama to report your evil deeds. I have waited for so long, and finally I can come to claim your life. He screamed in terror repeatedly. Disgusting! He soiled himself. I plunged my hand through his chest, ending his life. Black and white impermanents sat with their legs crossed amidst the lavish banquet, feasting. White impermanents frowned. Another one gone to Avasai hell? How unlucky! Black impermanence looked at me. White impermanence waved his hand. Indifferent, deaf, unable to be a father-in-law. If the young lady wishes to descend to Avasai hell to witness the tortures, why shouldn't we let her in? He winked. But don't forget, your man's soul has been scattered. I won't help you piece it back together. Amidst Nan Gong Wen Tian's resentful curses, I looked up. Among the shimmering lights and shadows, a familiar figure approached. He sighed, embracing me tightly. My dear wife, where have you been? You made me search for so long. If you don't come home, I'll be upset. Li Ju reached out to me, repeatedly kowtowing, as if fearing I would take Guan Tang's body away. I rolled my eyes, slowly shedding the body and floating out. Among the swaying robes, a prescription fell to the ground. What use is this mundane body to me? I am not a skin-painting demon. I only want my husband back by my side. Covering her face with her hair, her mouth stuffed with chaff, fearing that I would accuse him of evil before King Yama. The princess had a very long sleep. When she woke up, she found herself in bed, her legs carefully bandaged. Imperial Brother sat beside her, sighing in relief. I asked Imperial Brother what had happened. He patted my head and said, "You met a benevolent immortal." His fingers were broken and bandaged by the Imperial physician, which looked quite funny. He coughed and drank the antidote. When did Imperial Brother get poisoned? I tapped my head, unable to recall anything, only vaguely remembering a sister whom I cherished greatly was supposed to visit, but seemed to have left in a hurry. That's good then. Thank you, immortal. May that sister live 100 years.